Hey, everybody, and thanks for joining us for our, third presentation of the day, Nikki?
Yes, ma'am. It's the third one, and it is Newline Interactive Panels for K-2 with Miss Haley McDermott, who is awesome.
She was pretty fantastic. I got to observe her this year, and my mind was just like, I was blown. I was so excited, and it made me really miss teaching. So...
No pressure,
no
guys.
Pressure.
Well, no, I'm just thinking, like, you're just that great. I just really enjoyed it. I think people are going to get a lot from this and really enjoy what you have to say.
I think so too. All right, no further ado, we're going to pull up your presentation and take it away, Haley.
All right, so I am Haley McDermott, and I'm going to be showing you how I find best to use my Newline panel in a K-2 classroom. I teach second grade at Northside Elementary. I handle a lot of tech here. I'm not our tech person, but I'm her backup. I'm in grad school at Southeastern in educational leadership. So that kind of consumes my life outside of being a wife and a mother. But this is my passion and what I love to do. So we're going to get started. We're going to look at different things that I use my Newline for and some tips and tricks and how I incorporate it into our current curriculum. So I'm going to get out of my presentation here, and y'all can just make me big, please. All right, so there was a basics class, I think, posted on the bottom of the Tech Week agenda. So if you haven't watched that beginners class, it's a short little video that they pre-recorded, and it's available on the Tech Week agenda. And I'm gonna assume that you know those things, and we're just gonna kind of move through this. So we'll get started. So my number one thing that I use the most with my Newline is the whiteboard feature and the annotation. So on the side of your Newline, you have a little, I don't know what it's called, like a toolbox on each side, and those can be moved around, bottom, top, wherever you want it to go. I keep mine in the center, that way my students can reach it if they need it. And I'm going to show you the whiteboard feature first. There's two ways to get to your whiteboard feature. You can click the house, which brings you back to your Newline homepage, and there is a whiteboard icon right here. Or over here on the side of your toolbox on the side, there's a little pencil, and that also brings up your whiteboard feature. One of my favorite things about the whiteboard is the variety of tools that you can use. So your Newline comes with two pens, looks kind of like this. There's a fat side and a skinny tip, and you can write on either side. At the bottom, you can change your colors, you can change the size of your pen, anything like that. So a lot of times I'll pull something up and I'll have two students working at the same time. It comes with two pens. The cool thing about your Newline is it's got 25 touch points, so you can have as many students as you can fit across your screen writing at the same time. I'm going to clear that off. There's also different features within your Newline. My Newline is not the newest version. Have one from a few years ago. So your features within your whiteboard might look a little different. You can change your pattern, your color. So if I want lined paper with a white background, I just click OK, and it pulls up that. The white doesn't look too good on camera. Or you can do a list, whatever features you would like. Now, my favorite part of the Newline is that you can use anything to write on it. Anything that has somewhat hard. I watched a video earlier in the school year just trying to learn more about my Newline, and one of the favorite things that I learned about was using a ball. So like we all have those students, especially like pre-K kindergarten, that really struggle with like grip and handwriting and things like that. So if you just want them to work on like making the shape of the letter, but they're not quite ready to hold a pencil yet, you can use a tennis ball. This is like a soft, squishy baseball that came with my daughter's T-ball set. Anything like that. So they can just grip it and then they can write. Pretty simple. You can use a pointer. You have short students. They can write with a pointer. You can use a marker with a cap. Obviously, you don't want to do anything. These are one of my favorite ones. These Expo markers with the little eraser caps, they work great. Even a pen. So whatever your students are comfortable writing with, as long as it's not going to leave ink, they can write on the Newline. I would recommend cleaning it every once in a while just to be safe. And they come with a specialized cleaner. So to erase, a claw on your Newline and like this. I was originally taught to erase with like a closed fist like this. But the problem I have with that, number one, the eraser is much smaller. And I always have sleeves. I always wear a jacket in my classroom because I keep it freezing cold. So then my sleeve hits my Newline and it accidentally writes. So I'm constantly having to over erase. And the claw is easy for a kid to understand on erasing. So that is the whiteboard feature. And you can be anywhere within your presentation or on, it's a working computer. So it's a computer. So you could be anywhere on your computer and you want to write something. It's easy to just go click that pencil right there and pulls up your whiteboard. And then it'll save everything from that day. So these are all the different things that I just created. So it'll be there for you to go back to. Then you click PC to go back to your computer. Whatever you had up last will be there. Now, if you have something pulled up on your screen that you want to write on, there's an annotation feature. Again, use the same tools, whatever you need to meet your students' needs. The annotation feature has it's like a little computer screen with a pencil written through it. So if I click on that, it gives me the ability to write directly on whatever I have pulled up. This is great because you can pull up worksheets, your math book from iReady, your CKLA workbooks, whatever, all these resources that they've given us online, we can now pull them up. It pauses the screen and you can write directly on it. So you can also write with your finger. If I want to just write something directly on my presentation, there it is. Now, if I want that to go away, I just click the same icon that I had to put it up there and it'll go away. There is a way, and click it, turn it back on, it pulls it right back up. If I decide I want to save what's there, I don't want to lose it. It's something that I need to be able to go back to. There's a camera down here at the bottom, and you can click and hold that camera. Click that camera one time, and it takes a picture of it, and it puts it into its internal storage. And I can show you how to go back to that in a little bit. So this is the annotating feature. You can use it for anything that you pull up on your computer. So document camera, we are all accustomed to using a document camera. You can still use a document camera with your Newline. And again, you can project worksheet and then use that annotating tool. So depending on what your document camera is like, I have one that requires a software to run. So just plug it into the USB port in the back, or there's some USB ports in the front. Because mine's a USB, I have to have a software to control it. So I'm gonna go ahead and open my software. If you have a document camera that has an HDMI port, you can plug it into the HDMI ports on the front of your Newline or on the back. For me, mine goes through a USB. So here's my document camera. I pulled up a worksheet. Now I can work directly on it without wasting my worksheet that I have to write on right here. Or if you have students that have completed some work and you want to see how different students, they want to share out what they've completed, they can just come up and slide their paper underneath your document camera, just like you would with a regular projector. So you haven't lost your ability to project, but now you have the additional capabilities of being able to manipulate and write and all those fun things. Now, if you have a document camera that plugs into an HDMI port, in order for that to come up on your screen, you would plug it into your HDMI. You're gonna go to that house that we talked about earlier. Now your house has a picture of your Newline, and these are all of the options of sources that you can have on your Newline. So say you plugged in your document camera into this front HDMI cord right here. You're gonna click HDMI front, and it's gonna immediately pull up your document camera. I don't have a document camera like that, so there's not even one on Canvas. I tried to find one. So I can't show you exactly what that would look like, but it would pull up exactly what you wanted. Yeah. See, there's not one, so it's like, where's it at? Where's it at? Let me go back to my computer. And anytime you want to go back to your PC, you just click the PC button right there. All right. Now, we all love Google Slides. Nikki and Heather have shown us all the wonderful things that you can do with Google Slides. So I use them a lot in my class. And the reason I have to use them a lot is because our Newlines do not have Microsoft installed. So in order to go through like a PowerPoint presentation or anything like that using your Newline, you would have to, if you're using PowerPoint, you have to go through your Microsoft Office account, your Office 365. So I always convert everything over to a Google Slide. I was a huge PowerPoint person before until I guess about 2 years ago, I started using Google Classroom and I converted everything to Google. So it easily converts. You can look it up on YouTube. It's easy to import a PowerPoint into your Google Slide. And I use Google Slide because I find that it's easier with my Newline. So a lot of teachers last year in the heat of the pandemic and school closures and everything started creating these wonderful, fun virtual classrooms. So this is my virtual classroom. I haven't updated it this year. This is last year's. So a lot of times when we have free time in class, not free time, but like we're working and some students have finished early, or sometimes we'll have time to do centers on Saturdays, on Fridays. I'll pull up my virtual classroom on my Newline and I'll send 3 or 4 students up there. And they have, it's free for them to use. So they'll have the option to go up to the Newline and play in our Google Classroom. They might want to read a book. So they know what's manipulated. They can click. It's going to move really slow. It's a big file. They'll click and go and do whatever they want to do on there. And obviously it's taken some time. It took some time to get my students comfortable with using it and creating those boundaries of where they can go and where they can't go. But that's any student, right? Anything that we provide for them, it gives them that. We have to give them boundaries. So here's all of the libraries that they can search through and find videos to listen to, books and things like that. Now, some other things that I have done with my Newline. I'm going to go back here. There we go. So our iReady is our online resource for math. So if I go to my iReady dashboard, I'm going to go to my teacher toolbox. I can pull up any of our workbook pages, the interactive tutorials, all of those kind of things work great interactively up here. So if I want to go to an interactive tutorial, they have these games and these videos that we can watch. Now we can assign these to our kids, but sometimes when you just throw it at them, they're not really comfortable with what to do on their laptops right away. So you can back it back up and do it together as a class. So I might pull up one of these videos. It's going to play through the video. We're going to work together, coming up and clicking the correct answers, discussing it, and using it as a whole group resource before we use it as a individual resource. They're the workbook pages, again, I can pull them up. I can find one. So I would pull up the workbook page and we can write directly on it using that annotation tool. And it's just easier than having to pull out your document camera, put your workbook underneath it. It gets blurry that way. So this kind of keeps you from having to do that. And it's easy to just click that annotation tool and write. So pretty easy. Another cool feature that we have the option to do within our teacher toolbox is the manipulatives. There are a ton of resources online for using math manipulatives to project math manipulatives, but iReady already has it for us, and they're usually built within our lessons. So if I want to go to the counters and connecting cubes, there's a link right there on our teacher toolbox, and here are my counters. So my students can come up and work with those counters digitally and manipulate however they need to. So just not, especially last year when we couldn't really use those manipulatives, this gave me an opportunity to get my students using some hands-on situations without having to touch everything that I would have to sanitize later that day. So there's all kinds of different features within the teacher toolbox that work great on your Newline. Back out of those. Any kind of math game you might find online during math centers, especially with the new curriculum, it took a lot. The new curriculum has an opportunity for a lot of like small group instruction. Well, there's not a lot of, hasn't been a lot of practice that you could give the students that you're not pulling. So I could set up a center type situation in my classroom where I'm pulling up some of those iReady games for that small group to come over here and work on this, while I have another group using something else across the room. You can use any games that you find online. There's a lot of facts fluency games that you can find online that you can just pull up. Again, they have to know, I can't leave this website. But I would pull up like a math fluency game and have 3 or 4 students racing each other to solve math facts. And it's quiet, typically, not always, but they have fun with it. Again, phonics games the same way. Watching videos, you can pause the video and write directly on that video. Now, one of my favorite things to do, and it's time consuming, but it's fun, is creating presentation games. Slides Mania has a ton of templates to create interactive Google Slides that are kind of like board games. So I'm going to show you an example of that. Ads. So like this board game right here, it would take you a few minutes to create it, but once you've created it, it's a great activity to use on your Newline. So you have this board game that they bounce through. Each one they land on brings up another question for them to answer. They solve the question or answer the question, and they get to move through the board game. And that's something, again, that you can put up here, and then they can just work with it. And they're manipulating and being able to use the resource. So it's not just for us. And again, Slides Mania has tons and tons and tons of stuff. Let's see. Another thing that I'll use it for in the mornings when my students come in, I'll have something like this displayed. Question of the day. They know, you have to train them. They know when they come in, this is their question of the day that they have to answer in their journal. This is what they do when they're finished. But before they get started, I want them to come and let me know who's here. So they would walk up. My students, they handled it pretty well. Walk up, you have a pen. They grab the pen off the side where I store it, or whatever other options I have for them to use. I'll have that annotation tool already turned on. So they come in, just a little check that they're here. So when I come and I'm ready to take roll, quick look, who's here, who's not here. Some of them like to be silly and like scratch their name out or whatever they want to do. But it gives me an opportunity to not have to sit down and take roll. I can see who's here quickly. They know exactly what they need to do when they come in. And there's, moves through my day a whole lot easier. And you can do, your agenda this year. So like our Google Classroom's changing up a little bit, and we're going to have like a weekly agenda newsletter type situation. Now, my plan is to have my hyperlinks in that agenda, so I can use that for myself as well as my students at home that are not with us in class. So I'll just be able to click on that link directly from here, and everything will just flow like I need it to. Now, as far as using this technology within our curriculum, things that I've found that have been most beneficial for me is our Whitman Wisdom. So Whitman Wisdom has tons and tons of anchor charts that we have to build. Now, I don't know about y'all's classrooms, but my wall space is extremely limited. So if it's an anchor chart that I am going to make, but I'm not necessarily going to refer back to it over and over again, I'm going to create it on here. I'm going to go to that whiteboard feature, and I'm going to build my chart here. If I'm doing a notice and wonder chart, I'm going to draw my line. I'm going to put my notice on this side, wonder on that side. The students are going to come up. They're going to write their notices and wonders. We're going to do it whole group, and it's going to be on this instead of hanging on my wall on a classroom, in my classroom. But what happens when I need to go back to that notice and wonder chart? that's where that camera feature comes in. Looking for it. Wherever it went. So that camera feature is going to come in. You're going to take a picture of that document, and I'm going to show you where you're going to go back to find that document. So if I clicked that camera and it saved this right here, I'm going to go back to my house to the home page of my Newline. Here, I'm going to find the icon called File Viewer. When I click File Viewer, it's going to pull up the files that I have saved directly on my Newline. Here, I am going to go to Pictures, and it's going to have all of the different things that I have saved directly to my computer. So this is the one I just did. Notice, wonder. So I just pulled it back up. I have it there if I need to go back to it. And then if I want to go back to here. So this is actually a first and finally chart that we created at the end of the year in Module 4. It's still saved on here. I haven't cleaned out my files in a few weeks. So if I need to be able to pull this back up, I can. It's not hanging up in my classroom for them to see, but when they need to see it again, it's available and it's saving my wall space. Now, the downside to this is this thing only has so much storage built into it. So that's where most of my files were saved onto a USB that I stuck in the front of my Newline. So I would save it Module 1, Lesson 5, whatever I needed to save it as, so that I can go back and pull it back up whenever we need to refer back to it. We talked about math strategies. I'm going to go back to my presentation so I don't forget anything. Another example would be our math slides. iReady provides us with slides. They're going to provide us with slides for every lesson next year, not just the first one or two. And again, iReady's got the games and the videos and the tools built in that you can pull up and manipulate on here, as well as pulling up your CKLA pages, using your document camera, whatever you want to use to show those CKLA pages. Spelling trees, another great thing. If you're a second grade teacher, we have spelling trees in CKLA. So you can create your spelling trees on here, save them, and then pull them back up as you need them. So this is an example of our new math presentations. Again, iReady created these in PowerPoint, but they're pretty simple. It takes about 2 minutes to upload it into Google Slides, so that it's a little bit easier to work with. It gives us the question. There's a protocol that we go through. What's the problem about? What's this? What's that? You can do all of that on here using your annotation tool. You can change the color of the writing. If I want to highlight something in yellow, I'm going to click the highlighter tool, change the size, and I'm going to highlight that she reads 9 books. So I'm providing them with the same instruction, but using this board. Exit out of my annotation. And it's going to go through that share, discuss, compare situation. So it tells them exactly what to do. And this is where I use my Newline the most when we're comparing class strategies. Like I said earlier, you can have 25 points of touch. We're not going to have 25 students all writing at the same time. But when we're coming down to this compare class strategies, I'll walk around my room and see, okay, this one did this. She's got the right answer. She used a strategy that nobody else used. So I'm going to keep in my mind, I want her to come and share what she did. And I'm going to pick 2 or 3 students that have a different strategy. And they can come up all at the same time and each have a section of my board and put their strategies on there. So then when they've walked away, I've got 3 different strategies that they provided. They can explain. So they're providing the instruction and using the technology all at the same time. So I know that was a lot and it was really fast. So if you have any questions before I show you a few more things, please let me know.
I don't think we really have any questions, just a lot of what's and so cools and like minds blown, especially with the using of like the ball. I mean, just the different implements that you can use to write on it. Really makes a difference.
Especially in the K-2 world.
Right.
I think like the pre-K kindergarten situations where we have students that come in and don't know how to hold a pencil, but they don't have time, you know, like we're starting immediately with not drawing, but, you know, creating those letter labels and things like that. So it's, you know, it's a good option to be able to use different things.
It is. You're meeting the needs of all learners too. So if you've got those kids who struggle with those fine motor skills, but have, you know, a little bit better with the gross motor, you know, so be able to do something like that, you know, you're setting everybody up for success. And I love that. So yeah, no questions so far. Go ahead, keep going. And I'm excited to learn some more.
All right. So another option that I use a lot is Seesaw. So if you didn't watch the session before this one, I highly recommend it. Seesaw is a great tool. And if your principal hasn't considered renewing your subscription, I would definitely talk to her about that. So in Seesaw, there are all kinds of activities already built. Before students are ready, especially like K and 1, they're not comfortable with a computer, or maybe you have a new second grade class that didn't use the computer much in first. Just getting them comfortable with the tools and stuff that are in Seesaw, your Newline is a great option. I'm fortunate enough to have touchscreen laptops in my classroom. So this is a great teaching tool to teach my students how to use that touchscreen laptop. If you don't have a touchscreen laptop, it's still a great teaching tool to learn how to use the Seesaw features. So I might pull up during that center time we were talking about earlier, and maybe just some extra review, a sort of some kind to vowel sorts or letter sorts, whatever you're doing. So I'm gonna assign it to my class, and then I'm gonna click add response as a sample student. And here my students have the opportunity to come up and manipulate this sort. So this is just your short vowel sounds. They'll take the picture wherever it goes. Bug goes in the short U. So they're just dragging it around. It's getting your students moving. It's a great center activity that doesn't require you to pull out materials and manipulatives and things like that. Doesn't require you to print anything out, cut, laminate, all that fancy stuff, and then you have to store it after. So Seesaw has a lot of great assignments like that you can use for a center activity. And again, you teach your students to be responsible with the tools that they have. If they want to use the pointer to drag the ring to the short E, they can. So this thing works wonders. To get to use a pointer is like the coolest thing in the world in these K-2 classrooms. My 4-year-old thinks the pointer is the greatest thing. She walks around the house with it all the time. So that's a great tool for center activities as well. And then I think I probably use my Newline the most in math, if I'm being honest. Just being able to throw up a problem and getting them to come up and teach the class how they did it. When they get to become the teacher, the other students are learning so much more from their peers that are doing it correctly than they can from me. And I've seen that time and time again. Like, you have a student that's just stumped and they cannot understand what you're trying to get across to them. But their next door neighbor who's understanding has a better way of communicating that with them than you do sometimes. So when you have a student that has figured it out and has figured out how to explain it, it's a great opportunity for them to come up and share what they're doing with the whole class. And of course, they love it. They think it's the coolest thing to get to come and draw and touch. And it's a great free time thing too. And then for our writing framework. So I use the writing framework in class. I save my graphic organizer. I pull it up all the time. We start working on it. I can save it into that file viewer. Just clip my screenshot and pull it back up the next day and add to it. It just keeps your walls free of all those big Post-it signs that we have to create and use. The number selector, great, great, great when you're calling kids out. I've also used the number selectors, and it's just a spin tool at Guidex. They have a lot of math manipulatives. So you can pull up a tool like this for them to use in their center. So they're not necessarily drawing or writing, but but they might use their spinner to create math problems. 6 plus 4. So then they would work that math problem on their dry erase board. So that keeps them, kind of gives them a little less responsibility with handling your screen, but it's a great starter and it's getting them up and using it. I'm like always about, if we're going to have a cool technology in the classroom, I don't want it to be for me. I want to benefit from it, but I want to see how it can benefit my students. And I think that that's what excited me about a Newline. I like begged and pleaded with our principal to please give me one. We had one on campus and it wasn't getting used. And I'm like, I want it. So I had to shoot my shot and I got it before COVID and all that had happened. So when we started getting more on campus and people started to see how much we used them and what they could be used for, it was like begging. And the majority of our Newlines are in our K1 and 2 classrooms. So they're really beneficial for the little kids. Now they are pretty tall. So that's where your pointers come into line. In our pre-K classroom, she has like some step stools at the bottom that her students can step up on and manipulate. And yeah.
One thing I do want to interject in there is, they do the panels come with the stand. A lot of times when they come to you, they are set at their top setting. So for me, 6 feet tall, I would need that, and I taught older kids. And so they were able to use that too. They can be lowered. So there is a way to take that. Yours looks like it's pretty low because it's almost.
Yeah, mine, I have like the older stand and it's as low as it goes. Or other teachers have a different stand and theirs go a little bit lower.
Yeah. So if you feel like it is too high, definitely reach out to, your administration staff and say, hey, can we get someone to come and lower them? Don't try to do it on your own. Those panels weigh about 300 pounds. They're super duper heavy, which is why we have them on the stands for some stability type stuff, but they can be lowered. So don't if one gets rolled into your room and it's pretty high, let that discourage you.
Yeah. And another thing you can do is you can screen share if you have your laptop and you have something on your laptop, there is a way to screen share. I know in some of the upper grades, some of the other trainings I've seen, they talk about how the students can share their screen up on your screen and stuff like that. That's a great feature, but getting my second graders to go to a website and type in a code to share their screen is a bit much. So, but I have shared my screen from like maybe my teacher laptop on the other side of the classroom. I can pull something up on it or I have something saved on it that I want to share. There is a way to screen share, or you can just plug in your HDMI cord and you can switch to your laptop view. You don't always have to use the built-in computer because again, it has limited storage. So I think that's pretty much all I have. I know it was kind of quick, but
no, that was perfect. I love that. And I put in the comment, like, I love that you said that you just wanted to shoot your shot. And I'm like, absolutely, because the worst they can do is say no. And you'll never know if you don't ask. So props, go for it.
We had our Newline, it was in our STEAM lab. And I'm like, it's not getting used as much as it could. And so they kind of did like a competition. Whoever wants to use the most tech and prove to us that they're going to use it can have it. And I'm like, oh, I've got this. Move out of my way, people.
That is awesome. I love that.
No, that is the best attitude to have about that, because I don't know who said it, but you miss 100% of the opportunities you never take, or shots you never take, or what, something along those lines. So, yeah,
absolutely.
So thank you so much.
You're
welcome.
welcome.
We got a lot of people saying thank you for the great tips. Like, a lot of people have learned. I've learned a lot of stuff here too that I didn't realize. So
I feel like I'm probably forgetting stuff, but I'm not in teacher mode right now.
Nope, it's okay.
I'm in student mode.
It is totally okay. Just know that you might start getting emails with questions and stuff.
Quite all right. So. I'll share my email. Let me pull it up.
Well, and if you teach in our parish, it's Haley.McDermott at lpsb.org. So that is definitely something that's easy, to remember. Also, while we're waiting on that, do not forget to fill out our survey and attendance. It's bit.ly Tech Week 21, capital T. Give us some feedback. Let us know what you need. sign up to win some great prizes. I had gotten some ordered that were specifically in mind to use with Newline Panels, things that will make it.
And there's a few things in that box that I have had a hard time not stealing because they came highly recommended by teachers in the district, and we're like, all right, we're going to order some. And let me tell you, they are flipping awesome. And I was like, well, they noticed if one's missing. So
yes, you will.
Definitely put in the survey.
So there is her contact information right there on the screen. And yeah, so we appreciate you joining us. Again, Haley, thank you so much for your time and your effort. We love having resources like you that can come and work with us. And again, we do appreciate it. All right, so we're going to have a break for lunch, but at noon, do not forget to come back. We will have Nicole and Pam talking about intermediate things that you can do with Newline Panels. So we're going to take it another step further and see what we can do with these great resources in our classroom. So
don't forget the beginner version is pre-recorded. So if you want to see that beforehand, feel free to just check it out, but you can go back to it at any point in time.
Absolutely. Hope to see y'all soon. Thanks again.